Hi guys, it's Tara and welcome back to Crafting with Curly Cues. Today I have another Tupelo Designs LLC design team video for you, and today I'm going to make a shaped card and do some paper piecing with this adorable Newton's Nook stamp set. So before we get started, I wanted to show you something that I did with my craft mat, and this is the same craft mat that is being given away at Tupelo Designs LLC this month. So you can see I took a piece of it and I cut it down and I stuck it onto this clipboard. So I just used my ATG gun to adhere it and I wrapped it like a present, and for me that makes it a more manageable space, and I like that it's hard on the back. So that was just something that I thought was fun to do with that craft mat, and I'm just kind of demonstrating the versatility of that particular product. So you can see I started with a few different hearts. I cut these out of my Cricut, but you could hand cut these, you could use die cuts, however you wanted to get some hearts. I just don't happen to have any heart die cuts, so I used my Cricut for that. And I'm going to take the smaller of the three hearts, and this is cut out of some Nina 110-pound Solar White cardstock. And now I've got a bunch of different distress inks in pink shades. And I'm just going to smush some of that ink right there on my little craft mat clipboard that I created here. And I'm going to use this paintbrush that's about quarter inch wide. I don't know how big that paintbrush is, but whatever size you want your stripes, you can pick the paintbrush. And I'm just dipping it in some water off screen and then mixing up that ink to create some watercolor. And I'm just putting some really loose, fun watercolor stripes across this heart. So I'm keeping in mind that this is not watercolor paper, so I don't want to get it too wet, but I do really like the look that you get of watercolor when it's not on watercolor paper. I like how it kind of sits on top of the paper more as opposed to sinking right in. So sometimes you can get some really fun effects with that. You just kind of have to keep in mind that it's not made to take water, so you want to make sure you don't get too much water on it there. So I started with some candy apple, and then I used some festive berries, and that one there was worn lipstick, and now I'm going to do some picked raspberry. I found when the picked raspberry went on that the rest of them were looking a lot more red than pink, so I kind of tried to go back over with the picked raspberry a little bit, because really what I'm going for is kind of a red to pink ombre look. So it's okay that they're red, I wanted to kind of make the ombre a little bit more subtle. And then the last one here is just some spun sugar, and that looks really, really subtle on the video, but in real life it really just kind of completes the whole look, so it looks really nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and dry off my paintbrush, and then you can see this craft mat is fabulous because all of that ink is just sitting there nice and pooled up on top of it, and all I have to do is come in with my paper towel and everything just wipes right off and you get a fresh clean surface, which is awesome. So I'm going to grab this piece with my tweezers here and then use my heat gun to come in and flash dry this watercolor because I am way too lazy to wait for it to dry. Plus I kind of like the look that you get by pushing the big water bubbles around and you get some of those hard edges. I think it looks kind of cool. I didn't measure my stripes. It's watercolor, so I wanted it to look kind of loose and not perfect. But another way you could do this is to take some washi tape and mask off stripes and then watercolor in between the stripes. That would be another fun way to get a more precise look with this. So just a thought. So now I'm taking that same brush and some picked raspberry, and I am just getting it nice and inky with that watercolor there, and then I'm flicking the bristles sideways to get some really fine spray. So this is giving me some splatters on my piece here, but they're really tiny, and by doing it this way you get nice, those little tiny small dots, which is what I wanted for this kind of sort of grungy watercolor Valentine look that I'm going for here. I'm not being very creative with my Valentine colors yet this year. Everything is the same. It's all pink and black and white. But hey, it's Valentine's Day, so that's acceptable, right? I'm allowed to do that, huh? So now that is taken care of, and there I'm just going to clean this mat up. So I've got my baby wipe first, and then I'm going to come in with my paper towel and just dry everything off. So you can see how this... Oh, I'm going to have an OCD moment here. I'm putting these away, and then I'm like, wait a second, that one doesn't go there. I have to flip them around. I'm cuckoo like that. But anyway, this is the Tupelo Designs LLC blending tool, and I wanted to show you that while it does come with the square pads, and you can absolutely use those square pads on there that Tim Holtz makes, you can also use the round ones. And I just wanted to show the versatility of this tool. This is the tool that Tupelo Designs LLC is giving away free with every order that you place in January. So if you place an order this month, you will get one of these tools. So that's awesome. And if you're worried about getting this tool because you already have all the round blending pads to go with your inks, I just wanted to show you that you can use them here too. So I actually prefer to do that just because I already have them all. So why rebuy square ones when I already have the round ones? So it works great. So I'm using that Adorable Sweetheart Tales Newton's Nook stamp set, and I am going to use the cute little raccoon today, and I decided to be a crazy person and paper piece him. So I have a few different pattern papers from my stash here, and I'm just going to go ahead and use my VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and I'm going to stamp this little raccoon on all the different patterns that I'm going to need to complete him. So if I had not done this step, this card would have actually been pretty quick because the most complicated part would have been that watercolor background and then however I chose to color the raccoon in. But no, I had to complicate matters and paper piece the little raccoon. He turned out super cute, but this took me a little while to cut all these pieces out and get them adhered. But you can see I'm using a few different shades of pink on this ombre paper. I'm going to use different shades for his belly and then like the insides of his ears and then the little heart that he's holding. And then I, of course, want him to be gray with black raccoon stripes and his little black raccoon mask. So that's my goal here with the different papers. So now comes the fun part, and I spent a significant chunk of my life fussy cutting all of these pieces out. So when you're paper piecing, you cut out the main image, and then you're going to cut out all the little pieces that you want in a different color individually. So you can see here I've got this scattering of what looks like just scraps of paper, but I promise they fit on the raccoon puzzle in such a way that's going to complete him when it's all done. But it's kind of funny, I always think, to see all the pieces because it looks like nothing, like they're just little, like they literally look like I made a mistake and there's just a bunch of little random pieces all over the place, but it will come together into a beautiful whole raccoon. So I'm clearly being nitpicky right here and trimming up just the little like infinitesimal scraps of paper that I felt like were in the way. And now I'm going to begin assembling Mr. Raccoon. So the way that I like to do this is I'm like way too picky, and each piece for me has to be traced in the black marker so that you don't see any of the white edges of the paper. And in my mind, that just gives it a much more cohesive look when it's all glued together and makes it so that nothing really kind of stands out. If you get kind of a white border, it's noticeable. So I did all that, and then I used my little tweezers to help me, and I used just a little tiny bit of Ranger Multimedia Matte. And the reason I like to use this is because it does dry matte, so you won't see it if it squishes out. And with such small pieces, the likelihood of something squishing out is pretty high. And then I just stick it on the raccoon where it goes. So you can see I kind of skipped a bunch of it because this took me quite a while to build this little raccoon guy. But I did every piece exactly the same, so I am showing you just kind of the last few pieces. I chose to build him from the bottom up, but obviously you can do this in any order that you want. It doesn't really matter. And you could also choose to do different parts. I chose to stamp him on the gray paper and then use the gray paper as my base. You could choose to make the black paper your base and then cut out all the gray pieces. I think in this case that would be harder, but just depending on the image, you never know which color you're going to want to use as your base. I usually go with whichever one I have the most of. So in this case, he's mostly gray with accents in different colors. So I made the gray my bottom layer. So now that he is all put together, I am going to go ahead and outline the edge of the whole thing. So that way everything just kind of is smooth and goes together. So I wanted to show you that I'm wiping up that adhesive with a baby wipe off this craft mat also. So this craft mat is like, it's legit non-stick, like nothing sticks to it. I'm hoping that the ATG adhesive that I used to put it on the clipboard sticks, but we'll see. So far it has been sticking, but I mean, it's really nice because you can literally clean up ink, adhesive, watercolor, paint, like whatever you get on it, you can just clean it right up. So I am, as you can see, coming in with a couple different shades of warm gray Copics. I'm just using my W1 and my W3. And I'm putting just a little bit of shading on this raccoon. So this is going to really bring him to life. So he's paper pieced, so that's super, super cute. But he didn't really have any dimension because it was still, there was no shadows or anything. So I just grabbed a couple Copics, really quick and simple, and just put a little bit of shading where there would be some obvious shading, like underneath that heart on his belly. And that just really, I think, took him to the next level of wow. So that was pretty fun. And then I used my black gel pen, and I'm just going to darken up his eyes because they kind of got lost a little bit in that black mask, so I wanted to make sure that they popped. And I did later off camera, I forgot to film it, but I used my white gel pen and put a little dot for a highlight in the center of his eyes also. So now I'm going to start assembling my card, but first I got to get my sentiment on there. So I'm kind of playing around with some placement here. I'm not entirely sure where I want little raccoon buddy to go. I wanted to kind of do it that way, but I thought that was too linear. It was bugging me. It was too perfect, right? My OCD kicked in the opposite way. So I decided to put him over there, and then I'm just going to go ahead and use my VersaFine Black Onyx ink for the sentiment also. And I really like this ink. It is a pigment ink, so it takes a minute to dry, but it definitely gives you a really bold, crisp, stamped impression. I rarely have problems with this ink of my impression not getting all the way stamped like I do with some of the dye inks. So I tend to use it when I really just want to make sure that it's like boom in your face. It's also really good for heat embossing because it's a pigment ink. It stays wet longer. So if I wanted to, I could have put some clear embossing powder over the top of this and had embossed shiny hearts and sentiment. But I didn't want to get my embossing stuff out. I'd already gotten too many things out. Watercolor and paper piecing. I was done with techniques for the night. So I decided to add a couple of those little hearts that are in the stamp set just to kind of bring the black onto the front of the card. And now I'm taking some craft foam, some fun foam, and I'm just drawing a really loose outline around this heart. I'm trying to make sure I don't get any of that black pen on the heart because that would give me a heart attack. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So it does not have to be perfect. It just has to not show. So the lines were my guideline, and I just made sure to cut it smaller than the traced outline that I had put on there. So now I'm going to put lots and lots of adhesive on the back of here because I did use watercolor, so it's a little bit warpy, and I want to make sure that it stays nice and flat on the front of my card. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that piece of craft foam right on the back. So I really have taken to using craft foam pretty exclusively when I'm popping up a big panel like this on a card. I find that it's more cost effective than using foam tape. And it just like, I've had the same little tiny roll of foam tape forever because I'm really only using it to pop up like critters and such. And so it's going way further, and I just think it's way easier to cut out one big chunk of craft foam as opposed to a whole bunch of little pieces of tape. So that's my preferred method. I went ahead and added some white dash lines around on the black with my my Signo Uniball white gel pen. And you can see they're not perfect, but the whole card is kind of a, I don't know, flowy, watercolory theme, so I wasn't super stressed about that. I think it looks good enough. So you can see I did use some foam tape on the back of the little raccoon fella here, and then I'm just going to pop him up right on the front to give this just a little bit of extra dimension. So lots of fun dimension on this card. So now that the front piece of my card is done, I'm going to show you guys how to put together this shaped card. So I'm going to bust out my trimmer because I don't have a scoreboard, and I'm going to use this as a scoreboard. So this heart is exactly the same as the one that I used for the front, and I'm just going to score the top at 1/2 inch. So you could kind of determine if you need more or less, but I tend to like 1/2 inch is a good size there. And then I'm going to go ahead and crease that score line. And then I will put some adhesive above the score line on the little flaps that we've created, and then go ahead and line that up with the front panel that I've already created. So just a little tip, I thought these hearts were the same no matter which way you flipped them. Apparently there's a slight difference, and I must have flipped it the wrong way, so this didn't line up perfectly, which is okay, I trimmed it, but I should have double checked before I put the score lines on, so oops, I'll do that next time. And then you just line up, and then you push those scores down really tight. So here's where I'm going to go ahead and trim because they just did not want to line up perfectly. Must have been something ever so slightly different with the left side of the heart versus the right side, and I got it upside down. But anyway, and then you can see you can easily flip that open, and you have that whole card inside, and your front panel remains flat, but you're able to open that card with no problem. So you can create any shape of card this way. You could die cut, as long as you die cut 2 of exactly the same, you can score the back one. And I mean, I've created circles this way. I've done hearts. I've done, I think I did like a diamond one time. I mean, the sky's the limit here, people. So I went ahead and used my Wink of Stella and made the hearts nice and glittery because I cannot resist my Wink of Stella, as you all know. And then I put my glossy accents over the top of those hearts. There's nothing I like better than some glossy accents on top of some Wink of Stella. I think it's the perfect shimmer and shine. So that is going to complete the project for today. You can see when you get up close that there's lots of fun dimension. That paper piecing really adds a little something for this card. I really love the way that that watercolor background turned out. I think it looks super pretty. Don't forget to check out Tupelo Designs LLC. There's still all kinds of celebrations going on for January, giveaways, free stuff, all kinds of good stuff. So check out the link in the description box below and head over there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to list all the supplies over at my blog as always. If you like this, please hit subscribe, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you guys. And check out all the crafty inspiration below. Thanks. Bye.